10 out of Haywood, thanks to unabated gang wars. One officer down, so I guess you're all screwed, cause the NCPD will not let that go. Got another blackout in Santo Domingo. Netrunners are at it again, poking holes in the power grid. While over in Westbrook, trauma teams scraping cyber psycho victims off the pavement. And in Pacifica, well, Pacifica is still Pacifica. This has been your man, Stan. Join me for another day in our City of Dreams.
Cyberpunk 2077. A game that was stuck in development hell with years of delays, hyped up with heavily curated gameplay trailers and videos and honey-sweetened words of how amazing Night City and its heavens were gonna be. The game came out and it was a mess. Almost a decade in development, and what people got made them less than ecstatic. But we're not here to see what is and isn't in the game that CD Projekt Red told us. We got Crowcat for that. We're gonna see what the game is like a year after its release, well, a year and a half by the time this review is done, with the many updates and polishing CD Red has done up to this point. Hello everyone, my name is Tram, and in today's journey we are gonna review Cyberpunk 2077. So step on board and get ready for a sci-fi action RPG playing out 50 years from now. Just a heads up, this will be a review of my playthrough of the game, which will include some story spoilers. I will talk about the interlude story of the game, but I will avoid the useless part of the main story of the game. So, anyways, I pick up the second hardest difficulty because I'm a god gamer, but I have no clue how much this will affect the game, so I don't pick the hardest difficulty. Third easiest is good enough for me. Now, I get to pick my background, a wanderer, street kid, or a blue collar. I pick Corpo because I wanted to already be in the biz, since the options are, do you want to be poor and lonely or have a job? And good thing I picked that. Turns out the Corpo background has almost twice the amount of unique background dialogue options than the other two. So more opportunities to break out from the standard dialogue options when they present themselves. Next, I have to make my character, given the choice of feminine or masculine body, and same choices for the voice. You can have a masculine body and a feminine voice, and vice versa, however you want to mix it. Interesting enough, these are the only conditions to decide which romance option will be available for you, unless you grab the mod that lets you date whoever you want. That works too. Now, I didn't know anything of this at this point, so I just made my character look cyberpunk enough, with some nice radiation hair color. And they even let you customize which genitals you want to pack. You can even be a Ken doll if you so wish, but I decided to go with the biggest donger the game allows me to drag along. Sadly, whatever you're packing has zero impact. Missed opportunity, in my opinion. Finally, we have the build. I want to be a tough guy that can punch people. On raw numbers, strength gives us more blunt damage, and take gives us some more armor. This way we'll not only be unstoppable brute, but also an exceptional engineer to build things that we need. Maybe new armor pieces, new weapons, what have you. Now, I just want to put in, when I finished this playthrough, I made a second one. Want to try a different build. Check out some stuff I didn't do my first run. What I learned between Nomad and Corpo is how you get to know Jackie, who's the first guy you get to befriend, and the very start of the interlude of how you get into the whole main story of the game. So I start off my corporate life as CD Projekt Red employee, throwing up from stress and crunch hours in the bathroom working on Cyberpunk, before going back to it, getting into a meeting with my boss. Now, first impressions are important, and the game wants to show off just how sci-fi the world is by showcasing the zero-gravity minibar that my boss has in his office as we watch our company's latest work on the TV frying the European Union's leaders, probably to save America from established universal health care. Afterwards, I get to have a small chat and can explore the office before leaving to meet with a friend. All the things so far will have Sarah packed in about 20 minutes or so, but do it if you like socializing. On the trip to the club, we find out just how much of a baller V is it dunked on some fool asking for trouble the split second we park on the roof. Must be venting out some pent-up stress from the office work. And here we meet our good friend Jackie. Who is Jackie? We the player don't know, and depending on which background story you pick, Jackie is slightly different in the introduction between you and him. As the white-collar background, you're already established friends. In the Nomad background that I did on my second playthrough, Jackie is a contract we help smuggling in some goods past the border. Anyways, we quickly find out that having implants on the job's ownership is a pretty bad idea, as they shut them down for finding us too problematic. As we can barely breathe, Jackie steps in and shows his diplomatic nature, calming the situation down as V quits his job and becomes full-time Night City merc.
V! Hey, hermano. Your new life, it starts now.
Hello there, Night City! Stanley here with you, and we got another day ahead of us in this city of dreams. Ooh, I love this town. Love it like you might love a mother who popped you out on the steps of an orphanage once and now stops you to ask if you got a smoke for her. Every new day here means 100 new arrivals, but only half these gonks will survive a year, and that's if it's a good one. And why do these peeps come to NC? Well, to be street samurai like Morgan, Blackhand, and Waylon Boa Boa. The greater the risk, the bigger the bounty, kids. Or so they say.
And wow, look at all these set pieces. This all looks like a lot of fun to play through. Bonding with Jackie as our only real friend and building up ourselves as from a nobody to establish Merc. Sadly, we don't get to play through this possibly 6 to 8 hours worth of potential content. Guess they had to cut content on that very strict deadline of theirs.
Know where you'll find most of them? The graveyard. Matters not where you're from. Matters not where you start. What matters here is the walk you walk. In Night City, the city of dreams.
However, we're getting close to the promised sandbox part of the game. Just one more hand-holding. Well, until we at least get a sample of the sandbox. Here in the car we're offered to learn how an FPS game works. I foolishly declined going through the tutorial due to my own hubris. On my second playthrough I did do the tutorial and it did explain a few things the game got going beyond generic open sandbox FPS shooter mechanics. Like the cyber hacking and the other tools of the trade, some that I know other people I watched playing through the game never used because they didn't understand it since they too skipped the tutorial and never wanted to experiment with the game, unlike yours truly. The mission at hand is a rescue mission. A person gone missing and we found her location. Held by the local gang in a rundown apartment complex, this mission is a quite well done introduction to the gameplay aspect. You can approach it in a both sneaky way or a guns blazing manner. Or how I play this game, a sneaky way until I fuck up and gotta go guns blazing. Once all the baddies has been taken down, we found our target, which luckily has a premium membership for healthcare. No, I'm not kidding, this is real. And so the emergency crew that seems to be part of hospital, part special forces, takes care of our naked lady. Job's done and we can finally start exploring the game. Well, kind of. Once we're driven off and depart from our friend Jackie, we don't get the whole sandbox. The game took a note out of GTA where the bridges are closed and any attempt to bypass the barricades ends in a painful bullet tail. But we have a good chunk of area to explore. Each zone has a so-called fixer who will be the one calling you when you get close to a mission. This zone is controlled by Padre, who showed up in the montage right here. There, that's Padre. Him and this one cop lady with an eye patch will be our fixers for now. Not having a clue how to advance the story, I accidentally went with a story mission and met with the Dexter, who reminds me of the speedrunner and host Big John, so I'm gonna call him Big John from now on. And he's a big league fixer. He's gonna get me and Jackie on a big gig. After suffering some passive smoking in Dex limo, talking about whether we wanna leave a footnote in history or just live a quiet life, we get put up on a test. The first part of getting this gig done. See, before we can do the gig, we gotta get a little spider bot from these bunch of bored guys. A gang whose entrance exams is, are you ready to replace your face with a Nintendo Virtual Boy? Now, this mission I really do like. There's a lot of ways to handle this mission. They will all lead to the same conclusion regardless of what you do. But the option of how to get there, that's the fun part. But before we can do that, there are two contacts we need to hook up with. First, there's one hostess lady who is gonna show us the apartment we're gonna break into when she was in there. Basically, in the dystopian feature, there's a business of like selling VR recordings of something that happened since everyone got a chip in their head. They can just record everything. Kind of like on a backup hard drive in their head. Like really everything, including sensory experience, like smell and touch, you know. So it feels like you're really there. And this became really popular in the porn industry. So we slapped on this recording to editing program thanks to this girl over here. And we find out where the ship is hitting as we scan around the area. I'm not quite sure how this works, but let's not question too much about the sci-fi functionalities. Once that's done, our contact here, this lady, wants us to cut out Big John from the picture once we get the ship. Like, just betray the guy that gave me this gig to start with. I told her to kindly fuck off with the skullduggery, and I left the place. Next up is meeting with the lady who will pay for the robot that the Borgs got. Now, this is optional, but if you're telling me that I can meet someone who comes from a company called Military Technology, then yes, I will see what I can get from such a meeting. Now, Meredith here is not only a total MILF, but also regardless of what dialogue option you go for, you get sucked for blackmailing her. I know this because on my replay of the game I picked another dialogue option and got the same result, one where I wasn't even remotely aggressive to her. First time around I thought this was tied to my unique background dialogue option. Oh yeah, that's a thing. Basically, what your background decides, other than a 10-minute intro, is the optional dialogue options. They rarely have a big impact, but it adds some flavor, which I think is way more important. So after this little lie detector test here, we get uneven terms, and Meredith hands over our payment chip. Thanks to my corporate background, I know that this is a dirty bomb. Basically a credit card that once used would send a virus to whoever the credit is meant to be transacted to. Anyways, I hacked the payment card, get rid of the virus, and keep the money for myself, which I think was a fun little option that the developers gave us to let us do that. So now we reunite with our BFF Jackie and meet up with the Maelstrom gang, the Borgs I mentioned earlier, and this is where the options of how to approach this comes in. You can be friendly with the Maelstroms all the way up to the deal, regardless of what happens during the meeting, it will turn into a shootout, but you yourself can decide to start off the violence right away if you so wish. No one is holding you back from the trigger. Or you can be like me, seeing the two sentry turrets at the entrance, accidentally holding down R not reading what it does, and rebuff the HMB attached to the turret. Get shot by the other turret, as this was considered an act of aggression, and then repeat the process with the other one. Now I have an HMG with 300 bullets in it, and I proceed. My objective went from meeting with the Maelstrom to defeating them, fine with me and my gorilla brain. Shooting in this game is fun regardless. I also find out that if you swap weapon, the turret machine gun disappears, which I never got to use. Oh well. Gunning down some Borgs with Jackie, who is indestructible, luckily enough, making him an amazing bullet magnet, we get what we came for and get our way out. For whatever reason, we can't take the same way out, as it closes shut behind us. Now this makes sense if you actually got to this room without violence, as this is where meeting takes place, and where they're gonna blast you regardless of the outcome, so they closed it while you were dealing. After some more blasting and optional sneaking, we meet two new characters. First is this 4-dimensional being, who by only acknowledging the presence of is causing reality to slow down, as our mind simply cannot fathom a 4-dimensional being. However, it wants us no harm, so I simply try not to look directly at it, which gets more difficult as it seemingly expands in mass over time. We also find this Borg trapped in a cell, who has a mine placed in front of him would he do any funny business. Eventually I do find the remote somewhere between these 4-dimensional beings' spatial expanding. I could blow him right away now for the hell of it, but I decide to help him out, as it turns out I'll never meet him again. But there is one side quest where he show up. Sadly I did not do that side quest. A bit more sneaking around and we find ourselves in a boss fight. Now remember, I'm mainly a melee build, that's where my majority damage is, but this guy, he will knock on my ass as soon as I approach him. After a lot of hiding around, healing and shooting, I eventually find an LMG stuck in the room. I grab it and shred the rest of itself. Mission done. Meredith, worked her heart out for me, greets me with the second-hand smoking and then comments me on a job well done. Later on we'll bang, as it turns out she was just playing hard to catch. After talking to Big John, I find a car of my dreams. I borrow it for undetermined time from this gentleman and I head to the afterlife. It's like a pub that honors former legends and got mad street cred. I also learn what happens if you disobey the game telling you to stay in this district. But after so much scripted adventure, I decided to relax a bit with open worlding. Some side quests to cool down after the Borg massacre. This involves helping the locals from getting mugged, and something a bit more elaborate like helping this monk that got Borged against his will to save his brother, who also got captured, and about to suffer the same fate. But there's a caveat. The monk specifies to please not kill anyone in the process of freeing his brother. It goes against their mantra or something, to not kill. I was fine with this because I was using blunt weapons, which the game description says, non-lethal weapons, albeit your enemy wished they were. Everything went smoothly. I got over to the warehouse, I bonked the bad guys, I freed the monk to talk to him, to help him calm down over the situation, letting him know that it was his brother who sent me. And what do I get? Thank you, but my life was not worth the death of others. You what? What deaths? I used a non-lethal takedowns and weapons only. Remember this. I will return to this in a bit, explaining what happened here. By the way, in the rerun of the game I did afterwards, I did manage to pull off a non-actual non-lethal rescue, and the monk's brother was much nicer to me for saving him. So yeah, after that and a bit more vigilante work, I joined up with Jackie to talk with Big John about the gig we're about to do. Now that we have the information about the apartment and the flathead robot, it's time to hit big. Look, I'm not gonna go into great detail about every story moment in this game, that's not my plan. But right now the game is not really letting me sandbox until I've done some progression. This is like the interlude quest series before I really let you do your own thing. So I need to talk about it. So me and Jackie, disguised as ourselves as weapon sellers, hit the big fancy hotel and get to work. See, the Flatheads has a stealth field, but you still need to distract people before you open hatches to progress through the facility. And then the Flathead gets to finally serve its purpose by face-fucking the hacker man running the security of the building. Now we can get into the apartment and get our prize, and that is not just the unique pistol by the bed table. But then, yeah, the penthouse owner is making a visit. See, Yorinobu Arasaka is the son of another guy, and the Arasaka family is the biggest tech company ever. They practically run Night City. After what is one of the best and intense moments in the game, so I'm just gonna pass through it so you can experience it yourself. It ends with patricide. So this is really bad for us, because now the entire place is in code red, and not from us stealing this. We're still an unknown factor. Our hacker friend Bug gets fried as someone spots her in the cyberspace meddling with the building's computers, so now it's just me and Jackie. After a really cool action movie scene of jumping down the side of the building, having an iron grid cushioning the blow, the case that keeps the ship from exploding due to the heat builds up by itself if it gets damaged. Jackie panics and shoves the ship into one of his 3 USB slots in his skull. We sneak past the alert guards as our cover is blown. Jackie's getting tired in the elevator, but hanging in there from the fall. One mech fight later, we're in the clear, and almost getting smashed by Adam Smasher, then gunning down some drones chasing us. Whew, that was a lot. We celebrate our escape, and just before giving Jackie some well-deserved rest, he hands over the ship. We shows it inside one of his 3 USB ports, and now we're carrying the big bug's haste item. Jackie takes a nappy in the back of the car while I head over to talk with Big John to settle the deal. Now, Big John here, he is not very happy about how the heist went down. Not very happy at all. See, V and Jackie got blamed for Nobura's death. Big John lets me wash my face before we talk about how we're gonna... oh, never mind. We get blasted on the spot and the screen fades to black again. The game's logo shows up, showing us that the game is finally starting. As John Silverhand, yes, up to this point the character we made and played through was just getting dumpstered and the interlude was done. So this game is actually about Keanu Reeves. Well no, that's a lie. We simply get flashes of Silverhand's life, and I see the legend who lived 50 years ago. It makes sense why later on. So we get to see Johnny blow up the Arasaka Tower, which in its current timeline is a memorial for the terrible terrorist act. Smasher somehow takes us down and blows up our arm. Johnny then gets interrogated and his soul transferred onto a hard drive or something. It's some kind of Arasaka tech that lets them store souls / the brain of people, put them into cyberspace, something like that, on a hard drive. And guess where Johnny Silverhand's mind is stored? If you guess the ship we stole and shot into our head, you're absolutely correct. Anyways, we wake up in what looks like my student apartment after 2 years of studying abroad. There are things glitching and shaking that is there but also not there. It's probably an intentional effect. Big John, who shot us, pulls us out and talks to Nobura's bodyguard. After thanking Big John for his services, Mr. Bodyguard takes us for a ride. Mr. Bodyguard's name is Takamura, by the way, and he's one of the big storylines you can choose to go with. If you want a specific ending, helping him will unlock that option. He's also a fairly nice character to interact with, so I recommend that you try out his storyline for a bit. The game doesn't lock you into one specific ending before telling you you're about to enter a point of no return in the story, which I do greatly appreciate. So after a relaxing trip, Takemura takes us to Victor. He's kinda like our foster parent, but not really. Like, he's always looking out for us, help us getting new robot parts that we can't afford yet, or even get that quest where you like have to pay back from all the operations you owe to him. You don't even have to complete that quest, and nothing bad will happen if you don't do it. It's just like, do you want to be nice to Vic because he's been nice to you this whole time? Anyways, he tells us how we survived. We were practically dead, so Johnny's ship filled the empty brain with itself. Somehow we ended up waking up in the middle of the rebooting, and now we got the new operating system slowly force installing itself, overriding our brain. Misty here is Yaki's girl, and she gives us some pills. One that lets the Silverhand OS install faster, and one that slows it down. Basically, whenever Johnny gets too obnoxious in our head, we chug the slow down pills to make him go away. Now, the only reason I went through telling all this is because it will be hard to comment on the game without explaining why Johnny shows up as he does, like a digital ghost. Johnny is the plot. Mr. Silverhand is what makes the story move onward, not V. V is the vessel of which Johnny makes things happen. See, the main story of this game is how long are you gonna hold Johnny back? How long are you gonna try to stick as V? Luckily, there's no actual timer other than story progress, and there are no game-changing aspects as the story advances. You'll still have the same skill tree, weapons, and mechanics like always, etc, etc. So don't stress over the story plot of V basically having 6 months left to live, tops. You can clean a nice city out of quests and collectibles if you so wish, without having to worry about the Silverhand operating system finishes its installment. But now the game is truly unhinged for us. Now we can sandbox as much as we want. We can buy cars, find new weapon blueprints, better blueprints of things we already have, tumble around in funny side stories, some featuring guest stars like Carnage.
For your eyes do not belong to you, or rather, not only to you.
As Illuminati preacher and Jesse Cox as a guy that really needs a quick ride to a doctor because his dick cannot handle the cyber pussy and now feels like he has dipped it in a Tabasco sauce. There's a lot of freedom here from this point onwards. The best way to level up is doing whatever is nearby at an appropriate level. You can try to take on Skullmark missions, but it will generally be filled with people that kills you under 2 seconds and are immune to stealth attacks. So come back later after a few levels. Alright, so I am missing a footage here. Think I forgot recording, or like I thought it was recording in Streamlabs, but I pressed another button that made me think I was recording, but I wasn't. Regardless, let's talk about what I did figure out, what it means with killing with the non-lethal weapons. See, there's the regular health bar. Hit something enough and they go limp. People will still be alive and wins on the ground. But there is also what I call limb HP. If a limb takes too much damage, that practically kills them. So when I was swinging my tire iron on those goons trying to save the monk, what I did was caving their skulls in. I.e., their head HP, the limb for the head, took too much damage and they died. So take my advice, don't do charge attacks with non-lethal melee weapons, or they will become very lethal. But as you can see on the footage right now, I finally replaced my arms with solid robot arms. They punch pretty hard, and they come in different flavors. These are called gorilla arms. There is also scythe blade arms, whip arm, and rocket launcher arm, which by the way has infinite ammo, just held back with a small cooldown. Also, apparently the monowire whip counts as a blunt weapon and not a sharp weapon, despite it being called the thinnest possible string, which when charged attacks can easily slice off limbs. Just a heads up, if you want to get the most of your whip, do get the blunt damage bonuses from like the strength tree. Also, the charge attack doesn't do a good job at the whole one-shotting limbs things. False advertisement. Very disappointing. The other armor upgrades are way more fun to do. So let's talk about sandboxing. Cyberpunk is a very cool city to run and ride around in. And I do like the characters. There wasn't one I met that I found really annoying to listen to, but I didn't meet every single character in my playthrough, so maybe I dodged a bullet. Maybe there is some super annoying character that you hate every time they call you or something. But most side quest is clearing out an area of goons, sometimes it's rescue mission or item retrieval, Thankfully, stealth isn't useless if you haven't invested in it. You just get extra bonus if you do put points in a stealth tree. In my second playthrough I did play Hackerman plus stealth, and the stealth bonus are nice. Like, I could do entire stealth sneak runs, because as long as you're stealthed, and if you put the right points in stealth, you do like insane amount of headshot damage. So you like sneak around with a silenced pistol and try to one-shot all the goons in there. It can be quite fun. But for sneaking around and doing stealth takedowns, you can pull that off just fine without speccing into it. Also, if you get double jump or the super jump leg upgrades, you open up many new approaches to these missions by jumping over walls that they put in the area. Now you decide the point of entry instead of those pesky level designers. These are very formulaic experiences. Scan the place, hack with ping, choose your route, but with most locations being unique, it never got stale for me. Sometimes it's inside buildings like workshops, apartment complexes, or even an asylum. Outdoor areas can be container yards, a parking lot, or a dark alley, among other places. The level designers did a really nice work thinking out as many different spots to have you do this kind of hustles at, within the limitations of making it all feel like Night City. If you ever wonder how a situation came to be, there's normally a computer with emails or a data log with conversation that gives you an idea why and how there are people there. The gunplay, like I mentioned earlier, feels pretty good. Guns go boom boom, unless it's a power weapon, then it goes pew pew in a satisfying manner, and even when your gun does damage for ants, it's still fun to shoot with. Where your damage is starting to lack, craft a new gun, even at basic rarity usually solves the trick. I did try every weapon to some extent, but since strength buffs shotgun and LMGs, that's what I stuck with, along with my robot fist and a sniper. As far as equipment goes, I just put on whatever had the highest number. When I mean equipment, I mean like armor. I didn't care much for rarity, which only gives you more mod slots on the cloth piece. The only thing I kept through the game was like one boss drop trench coat, because I had a lot of nice mod pieces slapped onto it, and it was legendary, so it had the maximum number of slots. The combat isn't really, well, hard exactly. It's very easy, really, especially with a melee build, as you can change some people with attacks and send them ragdolling, especially with grenades and heavy blunt weapons. I was playing on the second highest difficulty, and I mostly ran through everything like a freight train. The only times I couldn't was when I was a place filled with skulls or red marked enemies, which is like the difficulty right before they become skull marked. But the game throws so many health packs at you, you can just spam them non-stop. By the end of the game I was sitting on a steady 300 health inhalators, like every time. Sure, it looks like you're a berserk with asthma spamming them, but hey, I play Diablo games, chugging health potions is second nature for me. And it's one of the default items you can craft, and it costs almost nothing to make them, so just go nuts, make as many as you like, have a 200 on you. But even if the combat isn't challenging, I think it's a lot of fun in it. Kinda like how I have fun with Far Cry. And the talent points in this game do feel like they really help you with your build. Some pretty damn sweet and strong talents that I'm glad the devs weren't afraid to let us have. Even if it means that the game gets progressively easier as the difficulty doesn't scale on the same level as your power spikes. I think that's because they didn't want to make the story too beefy. I mean the enemies in the story, that is. Because of those people that are just interested in mainly doing the story, and not like doing side quests for a few hours. The game does have a lot of side stuff you can do, and will keep you entertained for plenty of time. There are a lot of different vehicles in the game, but after you bought the My 126, I don't see any point in getting any other bike or car. I mean, look at it. It even greets you in Japanese when you enter it. Amazing! Function and form, all in one. Mwah. I love tiny cute cars. Sadly, you can't customize the color of vehicles you purchase, maybe in a future update, which segues into my next topic, the game's content. So when the game came out, a lot of you out there were underwhelmed because the market is raising our expectations so high, plus from the years of delay as we were told to get this super amazing groundbreaking game. During the time it has taken my lazy ass to write the script, the game has already released 2 big updates in this year alone. The first one added a new apartment around the city for you to buy, improved the UI so it looks better than what it does in this video, and some other stuff. The second update gave us a laminated vest, and a bunch of missing animations for the NPCs, and fixing quests that could bug out. You know, like riding with Sweet Panam, and then she decides to put on her invisibility cloak. I'd love to show you this, but that sadly was a part of the lost recordings. So back to the story. After a bit it becomes clear that the V is running out of time. The Silverhand progress bars ticks heavier and the anti-Keanu pills are getting less and less effective. This is where the big narrative of the story comes in, I think, which starts off all the way back into the prologue with Big John and the limo. Are you gonna go out guns blazing, doing something wicked and become a legend as V before fully becoming Johnny Silverhand's new hardware? Or will you stay as V for as long as you can, living it out quietly? You see, depending on how you bond with Johnny, he doesn't exactly control him taking over V's body. That's out of his control. That's a part of the program the ship his soul is in. But just like Thanos, it is inevitable. Regardless of your means, the end always goes back to where it all started. Back to Arasaka Industries. I choose to get there and get Johnny out of my head with the help of the Nomads. This is referred to as the Pan Am route. You can do this even without being romantically involved with Pan Am, as long as you did the Nomad questline. She will still consider you one of her most precious friends. This was pretty cool. We break into the old mining facility, dig our way underneath the Arasaka Tower and handle things from there. Wham bam, thank you ma'am, and the game is done. So how did I feel once the game was done? It was a lot of fun, but there was definitely some things that felt unfinished in the sandbox aspect. Like in one area, without looking around, I could see the same NPC model, like 4 of them, or 2 of them just sharing a table having a chat about how the cell cloning research is working out. But it's still a good game, and unique one, thanks to Johnny Silverhand's situation. He fades in every now and then, playing the devil's advocate or your little devil on your shoulder. Oddly enough, no one reacts when you talk to him, since no one else can see or hear him. Which is weird sometimes in like car driving scenes when he like pops up in the back and talks to you. And like the NPC that is riding with you is like just ignoring it. Johnny himself wants to use you to help him with some unfinished business he didn't get to pull through. Like getting revenge on Adam Smasher, but it never feels like V and Johnny are truly on the same side unless you go the Johnny route. I mean, more like a truce of cooperation. The voice acting is really good in this game. I didn't feel like anyone phoned it in, although Ko just sounded like Ko and Jesse just sounded like Jesse Cox. But the non-guest appearance NPCs that had to play a character did a fantastic job. With of course Keanu's Johnny really doing a great job, which I think is important because Johnny is such an important character to the plot. We really needed every bit of excellence in him, and Keanu gave us just that. Even though Keanu did just sound like Keanu, but still, that was still Johnny. Both male and female voices of V did a really good job, although I feel V's reactions to things that can at times be bipolar. There are times when V is super moody and snappy at people, and other times calm and sympathetic. It really depends on your dialogue choices, and can cause this whiplash personality change. Probably how the writers told V's voice actor to express themselves for the specific dialogue, rather than like one whole coherent thing throughout the entire game. And like there's a lot of dialogue in the game, so it probably wasn't that easy to make it all fit together as one harmonious thing. All in all, Cyberpunk is a great sci-fi FPS RPG game. Ooh, that was a long line. I got a good 50-ish hours out of it on my first playthrough, and I didn't even experience all the questlines in the game. If you enjoy games like modern Far Cry and Fallout 3 onwards in the Fallout series, the Talent Trees adds a lot of fun to the general guns blazing playstyle, and hacking is kinda like playing like a mage, but with some pretty powerful stuff in it, like spreading poison, putting people on fire, or even making them kill themselves. That one is pretty powerful, that one. It's like, you have like these hacks called ultimate hacks or something like that, which are like super hacks, that you can't do as often as the regular hacks. Anyways, and the game is still getting updates. It got 2 big ones during the time it took me to do this review, so I really do think CD Projekt Red wants the game to be the best it can be. I was also told in one of my streams that there's a DLC plan for the game this year. I mean, you can Google if that's true or not. I can't bother with it. I just assume that there's gonna be a DLC. But that's it for me. Thank you for watching my review. I'm gonna post more reviews in the future, so hit that subscribe button if you want to keep tabs on when more comes. I also stream on Twitch, on twitch.tv/Tramelton, link in the description. And here's a hint of what next video is gonna be about.